Hey guys, welcome back to another DJI Avata 2 video here. Gotta get used to saying that, normally I say DJI 3. But this week we're going to be covering an overview of the Avata 2, the goggles 3, motion controller 3 and the controller 3 here. And then we'll do a menu system guide on the goggles 3 and then we'll jump into a first flight with both the motion controller and the controller 3 here. If you're new, hello, my name is Dimitrios and I create videos on drones, photography and everything in between, and it's a mix of entertaining and educational content. Subscribe to stay up to date. Now let's jump into an overview of the DJI Avata 2.
You got me spinning like a carousel light. I'm upside down, go round and round and round and round. You're lightning, baby, don't you let me down.
Now the first thing you do is when you get everything out the box is just put everything on charge. You're gonna need to charge everything up. It doesn't come with a charger, but I'm using this one here. This is the Anker Gang Prime 120 watt. It has a USB-A and 2 USB-C ports. It's the same one that I bought when I bought the DJI Air 3. So this will be in the link in the description box down below, as well as everything else that I use to shoot and film, and I recommend. While everything is on charge, let's have a quick overview on each of the devices. So let's jump with the Avata 2 first. So you notice you have at the front here the gimbal cover. You just pinch to take off, and then you have your nice camera here. You will notice the prop orientation as well. So these two props will be the same and these two props will be the same. And the way you tell them apart is that on this prop, it has a red dot as well as on the arm here. So you can't get confused if you do break a prop and you need to replace them. At the back here is the battery compartment. So you push once on the battery to find out the charge, and then you double press and press again to be able to power it on. The battery compartment, you literally push to release, and it only goes one way. So you just push and that's it, locks in place. There are sensors here at the bottom as well as infrared sensors, and that's to help with level flight. You also have some radiators here on the side, so be careful not to touch those because the drone does get pretty hot. On the left hand side, you have your USB and SD card slot, and on the opposite side, you'll have your C1 label here. So if you are flying in Europe, that just means you're allowed to fly under your basic license. I believe that's everything with the Avata 2. Let's move on to the goggles 3 here. So note that the battery is located at the back here, but the charge point is on the actual goggles, and that just means the cable runs through on the right hand side here. So just be careful when you are packing them away not to damage this right hand side. Now as a quick overview on the goggles here, underneath is where you can adjust everything for your eyes. So you just follow the instructions, it's pretty straightforward in order how wide or narrow your eyes are and the clarity you want. Everything in terms of functions is on the right hand side of the goggles. So underneath you have your power button and USB-C cable. You also have your LED status here on the right, and when you double tap, it does bring up picture in picture. On the top, you have your 5D button and your back button in order to navigate the menu. And up here at the top is where it rests on your forehead. If you don't want to have your eyes touching the glass, I recommend using the additional strip that is provided by DJI. It's pretty straightforward to put on, it's just Velcro. And then when you do put the goggles on, you spin to the right to tighten that up. There you go. And to take it off, it's the same procedure. Just turn to the left and then you'll be able to lift them off. Also note on the inside, you have your sensor here. So when they are turned on and it's not on your goggles, the screen is off. But if you cover that up, you'll see the screen turn on. And just above the sensor is the micro SD card here. Again, a link for that will be in the description box down below. So before we jump into the menu navigation, I want to cover the motion controller and controller 3. Motion controller, you have the power button on the left, your start stop button, your joystick remote for easy acro as well as navigating the menu, your normal on sport mode button as well as return to home. You also have your joystick wheel here for easy acro, and then you can press once to center the mouse and double tap to bring up picture in picture without having to use the goggles. Your record buttons on the right, and then you have your accelerator here, and there is 2 stages. If you press in once, this powers on the drone to allow you to go left and right, and you push all the way to move forward. If you want to go backwards, you just lift forward and that will go backwards. And these speeds can be adjustable within the menu system. That is pretty much it. There's also a lanyard here, and I recommend keeping that on your wrist as well when you are flying. So if you do let go by accident, it's not going to leave your wrist. In terms of controls, all you have to do to go up, you pull back. Think of being a fighter pilot, essentially. You pull back. To go down, you push forward, and then to go left and right, you bank left and right. And it's simple as that. Now let's jump into the controller 3 here. So out the box, this isn't connected, so you do have to link this with the Goggles 3 and the Avata 2. You simply do this by holding the power button for 5 seconds on the goggles and then the controller. And when they start beeping, they will start to link. When they stop beeping, they'll be linked. So you have your gimbals here, your power button, your customizable button, start, stop, gimbal control, pause and return to home, your speed settings, so normal, sport, manual mode, and then you have your gimbal orientations, and you can adjust this to other functions too, and then your record button. There is no aerial, and then the sticks are hidden within the controller here with the USB-C at the back. I do think this is not as comfortable as the TBS Tango 2 Pro, but again, that's just down to ergonomics and my preference. This is also a lot slippier compared to the TBS Tango 2 Pro. Otherwise, it's nice and light. I do recommend that you get a lanyard to put around your neck when you are flying, so this doesn't fall out your hands and lose control of the drone. And just note, when you do get out the box, this throttle stick is spring-loaded, so in order to loosen that, you just have to open up the back compartment here, and using the Allen key provided, you just tighten the screws if you follow the instruction manual, in order to loosen it to your preference, in order to have full manual control for throttle control and not regular up-down as you're used to traditional drones. So just note, when you are flying with this is throttle, not up down. And then you have yaw, pitch, and then roll. Hopefully everything is charged. If not, we can cover a quick guide on the menu. But before that, when you do plug everything in, the Goggles 3 will advise in terms of activating the drone first. So make sure everything is turned on. I would stick to using the motion controller first and then the controller 3, but follow the on-screen instructions and this will activate the drone and update the firmware as well. Once everything is updated from the Goggles 3, the Avata 2, and motion controller and controller 3, then we can have a quick look at the Goggles 3 menu. Now for a quick overview of the menu system, it's pretty straightforward. When you pull back on the 5D button, it brings up your shortcut menu so you can record, enhanced display, head tracking, live mode, easy acro and defog, as well as your brightness settings, and then press back to disappear. When you pull up on the 5D button, you have your video settings and you can adjust all your settings here. You even have photo mode. And then when you go back, in order to access the main menu, pull to the right, and then here you have your stats, your album, your transmission, your settings, etc. And we can dive deeper into that in future videos. Before you fly, now if you are in controlled airspace, that means you do have to do a DJI Unlock. If you are based in Canada and you want to fly the DJI Avata 2 in controlled airspace, you do need to have your advanced license and you have to put in a Nav Canada approval as well. So this was straightforward for me. I do need to make a separate video on this. If you are interested, let me know in the comment section down below. That being said, before I tried to fly this, it was annoying to get the DJI Unlock loaded onto the Avata 2. You have to have your phone connected to be able to put this in. You have to do this every time you do a battery swap as well, which is very annoying. If you go to your profile, to settings and scroll down, that's where you access the menu in order to send the DJI Unlock to the Avata 2 to be able to fly the drone so it can take off. Very annoying to do this with this type of drone. This is the downside of it. Unlike these things, but they don't have any of that bullshit and you can just fly. Now we've done pre-flight, let's jump to my first flight with the motion controller. Both flights were recorded, by the way, in ultra-wide D-Log game at 4K 60. These files are massive, so you are going to need a lot of space, or you're going to have to keep deleting the footage if you don't have enough storage space. So I started off flying with normal mode, and it was very easy to fly, very smooth. It's a good cruiser, let's put it that way. And because you have the sensors at the bottom, it's keeping that level flight. And I tried turning as much as possible just to see its capability in normal mode and how tight the turns can be and how much it can incline and decline. I feel those settings were a little bit slow, so you do need to adjust those. I'd have to play with it more and do more flights and need to see if it can climb a lot faster than it should do, because I nearly hit the trees and it ruined the flow that I was having. When I was flying with the motion controller, I was testing out to see how variable the speed was. I don't think it was as much as I would like, because as soon as I let go just a little bit, you would notice the slowdown in speed. Also testing out head tracking to see if I could orbit using the motion controller, and it is possible. However, it is very disorientating using the head tracking with the motion controller. Note that the crosshair is where you're facing or where you're pointing the goggles, and then the circle is the orientation of the drone. You can also get some unique angles using the head tracking mode. So if you are flying in a straight line, I went above the tree line and then having to look down, it looked like as if I was a bird flying in the sky. Same as if you're flying low to the ground and look up, you can get some interesting angles using the head tracking feature. Because this drone does have sensors and they're always on, it is helping you stay level above the ground and not dip into the ground. Unlike traditional quads here, where they don't have any sensors, you have to use throttle control. So this is like a pro and a con again, because it's nice that it's keeping you level, especially when there's elevation changes, but it's also a bad habit if you want to become an FPV pilot, because you're not learning throttle control and you're having the sensors rely on you keeping you a steady flight, especially throughout elevation changes. I also tried out easy acro mode. If you're already recording, you have to stop the recording to turn easy acro mode on, and then you have to start recording again. I did find these very robotic, and it's not as free flowing as you would be normally with freestyle drones. You could probably achieve more cinematic moves in manual mode with the Avata 2. Sport mode is also really fast, so just be careful when you are flying. There is a noticeably difference in speed, so if you don't want to crash your drone or damage it, just make sure you're using the trigger appropriately. Now, when I was flying the drone, I was just messing around to see how fast the drone can fly, how fast it can turn, how fast it can climb and decline. Because I wasn't able to decline fast enough, I almost hit the tree, so luckily I just let go of the throttle control on the motion controller and banked right, and I avoided the trees. It is spring, they're not in full bloom, but luckily enough, I didn't hit the tree on that occasion. So when I landed to change the battery, it was around 20%. It does want to have a forced landing around this point. And this is where I jumped into the remote controller 3 and switched to manual mode. Now, when you are jumping into manual mode, you have to do a couple of things here. One, you have to turn off the beginner horizon mode, because it won't have full access in order to do a 360. It will stay in horizon mode, as they say. You also want to calibrate your controller to make sure everything works. And you want to put this, make sure the manual button here is actually set to manual and not sport mode, because as default, DJI put a lot of barriers in place to prevent you from getting there. Once that's all done and you've done the DJI Unlock again, you're able to fly this drone simply by double pressing this twice to start the drone to set off. The first thing to note is that because the gimbal is self-leveling here, trying to hover was a challenge because, well, one, trying to balance the drone, and then the gimbal's also trying to do another thing. So they're kind of counterintuitive. Now, I did mention this earlier, I am a pincher when I fly, and I found that this was not as comfortable as a TBS Tango 2 Pro, but I prevailed. When you are flying, this self-leveling feature is useful because the faster you go, the gimbal is always going to stay level, which is kind of nice. Also, when you're trying to do acro, I feel like it interferes as well. Now, this is a smooth flying drone as well in manual. I didn't find any issues there. However, I did notice in terms of power, because this is lithium ion technology, we don't have to worry about how they're charged. Everything's taken care of. Compared to lithium polymer batteries for traditional quads, the power's okay, but when I tried doing a punch out, these have a lot more power and it will literally get you out sticky situations. So if you are doing a dive, for instance, you have to anticipate the move a lot earlier than you would with these ones. Again, every quad is different. You just have to take that into account. So a couple things here. When I was flying, testing its agility through the trees, forgot completely that I had an ND filter on, and towards the end of my flight, when I landed and I was packing up, I noticed the ND was missing. Luckily, I was able to use the goggles to play black when I hit the tree and then look in the area, and luckily I was able to find my ND. So even though they're easy to put on, they're easy to fall off. So just note that with the NDs, if you hit something, you might have lost it. The other good thing, I was having fun playing with this dog at the park, flying the Avata 2, and I was able to fly backwards and pull away from it. Something that you could not be able to achieve with the motion controller. You have more control with this than you would do with the motion controller. And again, trying to do acro was nice, it was smooth. I do prefer flying with the controller than the motion controller, but both have their purpose. And that is the thing. I think I need to get my head out this mindset. Maybe you guys too, if you're in the same boat, where if you're trying to compare this to traditional quads, it's not gonna have the same agility as these traditional quads because of all its quirks and the sensors and the self-leveling gimbal and everything. This is a good camera. The whole system here is a good camera. So we have to think of this as a filmmaker's tool. And for that reason, with using the motion controller, normal mode, having the sensors to have that stable flight, can get you very good footage. So yeah, if we take the mindset out of this is a hardcore FPV quad and more this is a good filmmaker's tool, then we can start changing our approach, the way we think about this and how we use this. And this is something that I'm going to be doing going forward. That being said, if there's anything you want to learn about the DJI Avata 2, let me know in the comments section down below. Also, let me know what drone you're flying. Is the DJI Avata 2 on your shortlist? Subscribe for more videos on drones, photography, and everything in between. And then YouTube recommend you watch this video next. See you in the next video. Peace.